there we go. Always a little terrifying exactly how easy that is. Hello everyone, welcome to my live Q&A. So, for those of you who have been watching these consistently, you know that I had some trouble last week. My house, the air conditioning was down, and it was 75 degrees the last time I did one of these. And now it is a cool 63 degrees and 50% humidity in here, so much better. Much better. So much better. I can't even go off about that enough. Like, it was miserable in here. So, okay. First, a little bit of rules. This is an AMA, which means ask me anything. But I will not be discussing dosages or levels tonight because I do not want to give people what they need in order to do DIY for their transition, because you will just die if you try to do that in all likelihood, and I really don't want to support people hurting themselves. So here we are. I am now realizing exactly how bad this lighting is without makeup, so fun times. Anyway, so for those of you who don't know what this exactly is, every week during Pride Month I do my weekly HRT injection, and I've decided to use that time to answer your questions about trans people and try to be as visible as possible about people like me so that y'all can see us and hopefully remove some of that ignorance that exists in the world about people like me. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. I gotta mute my notifications because that's gonna drive us all crazy. Okay. What I will say about my levels is that they are in the pregnancy range, so that's always fun. I will also say that this is the point in my life where I get my period, more or less. There's not really a better word for it. I just don't bleed because I don't have a uterus, so I'm in a mood. Yeah, so, just gonna dive in with some of the preloaded questions from my various social medias where I've shared this before. Oh, I should mention, I will be doing my injection on camera, so if you are squeamish at all, you definitely need to look away during that. Last week, I got some blood, keeping on track with my every third or fourth injection. I hit something record, so yeah, that's always a fun one, and nobody likes to see that, but here we are. So we'll hope for the best this week. Right. Preloaded questions. Alright, so the first one I have up here is, through this whole process from the beginning, did you have a trans woman to ask questions or guide you at all, or did you just pioneer on your own? I should clarify, there's another monitor over here. I'm not crazy. Well, not for that. Oh, hello. We have a guest. That's always fun. Anyway, so the first question is basically, did I have the help of other trans women in my life, or did I just wing this? I had Reddit to start, and when I came out to my therapist, her first recommendation to me was that I seek out other trans people IRL so that I could have more one-on-one interactions with them and more of like that social level of it so that I could actually interact with people who are like me. So I went to a support group in my area, and I did not just wing it. A lot of this kind of stuff you kind of have to do. It's kind of a personal journey, but you know, having to go in totally blind would have been absolutely terrifying. So I was fortunate enough to have a network of support, including trans people. So that was really useful for me. There's something else in this question that I want to address, which is going to be hard to address without actually showing you the question, so whatever. But they asked this question and they put the words trans woman together. That is not correct. And this is one of those things where it makes me sound super pedantic and like unapproachable or whatever, but it actually matters because trans is an adjective that describes an additional detail about me as a woman. If you smash those words together, it becomes a new word. And it's a common tactic in TERF circles, which are trans exclusionary radical feminists like J.K. Rowling. And other people who have transphobic beliefs, they combine those words together so that they look really inclusive, but what they're actually doing is describing us as something other than a woman, which is not correct. Trans women are women, trans men are men, and non-binary people are exactly what they tell you they are. That's it. But yes, putting those words together is incorrect, and it's not so much offensive as it is more like concerning, because it makes me like, oh, where are you getting this from, and is this an attack? Like, it puts me immediately on the defensive because I've just seen that so many times. Yeah, so that's basically that question. Some things, like I said, you kind of have to figure out on your own. Like, this stuff changes all the time. Since I've done my name change and stuff like that, particularly my birth certificate, that process has changed. So everything I learned about that is pretty much out the window. Oh, well, see, I'm educating people, doing good work out here. By the way, it is so frustrating the way YouTube has, like, so each of my streams I've done on a different platform. My first stream was on Instagram live, and then I didn't figure out how IGTV works at all because I don't see the point. And then I did Facebook Live a couple of weeks in a row, and some of them were shared with groups and some of them were friends only so that I could, like, narrow my audience and stuff. But this is the first time I've done this on YouTube, and apparently if you don't set it up in their live creator studio thing as a webcam broadcast, it will assume that you're doing it as, like, a streaming external service thing. So I'm right now running this through OBS because I didn't know that, and I had already sent the link out to, like, everybody who was going to be watching, and I was like, so, like, 20 minutes before I started the stream, I was like, okay, importing a new scene in OBS, we're going to clean this up, and, whew. So, yeah, just kind of glad it's working, to be honest. Yeah, I would have loved to do this at 60 FPS, but this webcam only supports 1080 at 30, so I was like, I don't know. Anyway, I'm glad it's working. Yes. So, again, what I'm answering that question. Some of this you're going to have to figure out yourself because it changes so frequently. So some of the advice that I got from other trans women was not particularly useful to me because so much had changed since they did their stuff. And that's sort of a problem that keeps happening because everything keeps changing. And usually for the better. Like, it's easier now than when I did it, but it's very frustrating because it makes it impossible for me to impart my wisdom on the youth. But yes, I very, very much support. I also had a gender therapist, which I should have mentioned, and I very, very much support people who, especially who are questioning, going through a gender therapist and actually talking these things out with someone who's actually trained to know how to deal with this rather than trying to make cis friends understand what you're going through. It's really challenging. That's kind of the point of why I'm doing this. Yeah, no, you definitely do better when you have communication with other trans people who are going through what you are going through or have been through what you are going through, or at minimum don't have as many hurdles to understand exactly what you're feeling, what you're dealing with and all that. Just makes it a lot easier to, like, be able to relate to people in that way. All right, so I'm gonna dive into the next question here. Okay. What are neo-pronouns? I'm gonna ruffle some feathers with this answer. So neo-pronouns are pronouns outside the standard 3, specifically she, her, he, him, they, them. There are other pronouns, the personal pronouns that people use, and they're more exotic. Things like Zim and Zer and all that sort of stuff, Z, those sorts of pronouns. In some circles, they're called Tumblr pronouns, which is kind of offensive. But yeah, basically these are pronouns outside the normal 3. And, oh, well, I've got a question from one of my other sources. Interesting. Oh, nope, unrelated. Okay, I'm gonna have to ignore that then, sorry. Yes, so neopronouns. I don't personally... Okay, so I can understand where someone would feel that any of those pronouns might not apply to them and feel right for them. And I fully support them using whatever pronouns feels best for them. And I totally understand where that's coming from and all that. I just think that it's kind of challenging enough to get people to use they, them, that trying to introduce a whole other set of pronouns could be really a big hurdle for a lot of people. But hey, maybe we need to expand that. Maybe that's a flaw in me. And I'm not about to tell somebody that they can't use whatever pronouns they want. It's just going to be a challenge for other people to like understand that. And the last thing I feel we need is more challenges in this community. But hey, you have to do what's right for you. And if someone asks me to use those pronouns for them, I absolutely will. I've just never actually experienced that. And it's one of those things where I know these people exist. They just don't exist in my circles. So I don't really get to have an opinion on this because I don't really have a stake in it, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's what neopronouns are. There's a long list somewhere I stumbled onto a couple of years ago that I haven't found again since then. And I'm sure that's constantly changing, but yep, that's neopronouns. Just watching my time here because I don't want to scramble like last week. I kind of wonder if that's partly responsible for why I couldn't find my veins when I was... Because you're not supposed to find your veins. You're supposed to dodge your veins. Whoops. That and the 75-degree temperatures, I kind of think that was the bigger issue. Anyway, so the next preloaded question we have here is, how can a person be trans without gender dysphoria? Oh, is that all? I could talk about this for half an hour, which kind of works out because I gotta get ready for my shot anyway. But, very basically, gender dysphoria is not what makes a person trans. It's kind of difficult to explain. So there's this ongoing debate over whether gender dysphoria should be classified as a mental health issue. And right now, the ICD-10 codes are what's used for billing, for insurance and everything, so you can get your health, your hormones and all of that other surgery-type stuff covered. They need to have a diagnostic code to actually provide you medical service the way that our insurance is set up in the US right now. And the language shift that's happened over the past year or 5, I don't remember exactly when it happened, is that being trans is no longer considered a mental disorder, but gender dysphoria is, and there's like this fine line between like what is and what is not that. Very basically, a person is trans if they experience gender euphoria, presenting as a gender other than the one they were assigned at birth. For them, presentation can mean anything. They don't have to change their name. They don't have to change their pronouns. They don't have to change their appearance. Like, whatever it is about their presentation that makes them feel more comfortable about themselves than the gender they were assigned at birth makes them trans. And so it's this weird thing where if you have gender dysphoria, you are trans. But if you're trans, you don't necessarily have gender dysphoria. So it's really often confused, especially in the medical literature, because the only way to diagnose a trans person per se and give them hormones is to diagnose them with gender dysphoria, which is not correct. And there's a big push to change that. A lot of places offer now what's called informed consent. So instead of getting a diagnosis and all that sort of fun hurdles you have to jump through, that I had to jump through, a person can just be like, I know what these will do to me, just you can provide them to me medically or I will get them online. And that's basically what you're saying. So yeah, some places offer that. That's technically how I receive my hormones, through where I go to my endocrinologist. Despite having a diagnosis and going through the official channels the first way. But yeah, that's how it happens. And the sort of frustrating thing about that is that you have to meet these criteria for like understanding what the effects of hormones are. And there's not really a standard for it. So every time you change endocrinologists, they make you sign another form that says, I understand the effects of what I've been taking for 3 years, you know? It's super frustrating. And kind of a mess. And honestly, all of HRT in the US is off-label use anyway. So it's kind of ridiculous to me that we're so bent on this whole medical diagnostics aspect of it when it's like, is that really the problem though? Like, I don't know. But for me, my gender dysphoria exists, first of all. I feel deeply uncomfortable even looking at my webcam preview right now because I can see the little bit of facial hair that's just like dark right here, and I'm like, I shaved this morning. And like, I understand that a lot of cis women, and I should say people who are assigned female at birth, grow facial hair. That is a common problem that women have, but for me, it's this whole like, women aren't supposed to have this problem and I have this problem. Maybe that's not the best example. Like, my chest is probably a better example because like, I feel wrong, or I did feel wrong before I had my chest. And that's kind of hard to explain to someone because it's like, yeah, I hug people and there's not a thing in the way where there should be a thing in the way. And I don't know how to explain that. And I think I'm crazy. And talking to the right therapist, they're like, nah, you're not crazy. You have gender dysphoria. Congratulations. Your life got harder. That sort of gets at one of my other points about trans people that I really want people to understand, and no one's really addressed this yet. I do not think of myself as having ever been a guy. Even when I thought I was a guy and sort of went along with that whole idea, it was more like that. It was more like, I guess I'm a guy because y'all told me so and I can't argue with that evidence. But I don't feel like one. I don't feel like I belong with these people. I don't understand guys at all, and my body feels wrong, and I don't know what's happening in my life. So for me, it's more like, my life only really makes sense if I look at it through the lens of having always been a woman, because everything makes sense then for me. Which kind of bucks the notion and the like most common hashtag of MTF, and I'm like, well, I was never M, so I can't really transition from male because I wasn't male. Yeah, no, I'm not to minimize things, but I'm just a girl. It's not that terribly complicated. Right. I need to, like, find a way to mute everything that isn't notifications from chat. Well, I have a selection of water bottles this evening because I'm going to have to keep drinking water because, I take spironolactone, which is a lovely diuretic. Anyway, I have my HRC Trans Pride bottle that I just received by mail. I love this. It is so awesome. Except that it's aluminum. I hate aluminum water bottles, but it's Trans Pride. I'm going to go for it. And I have my normal water bottle, but I've covered it in this thing I picked up weirdly at the Yankee Candle in Boston, or I guess just in Massachusetts. This stretches over it. It's like a sock, and you just pull it over whatever water bottle you want. So it's almost gay enough for me. Almost. Although I need something bi. Anytime you try to find something that isn't the rainbow flag, you're going to have a harder time, that's for sure. Ugh. Let's play a drinking game where every time Mia drinks, everybody else takes a drink. But yeah, I hate aluminum water bottles. It always makes everything taste really acidic and metallic, and I'm just like, ugh. I'm also really wishing that I could go back to a hair person because these are supposed to be bangs, and they're kind of doing their own thing. I kind of like it. Like, it's a cool look. You know, I've got like this action happening here. It's hard to do mirror image. Oh, God. It's a cool look. It's just not bangs. Hey, it's better than the, like, middle part that I originally started with. Like, that's not a good look. Right. Stop talking about my hair. Checking the time. Oh, well, I'm going to start going then. So I'm going to... most of the other videos that I've done for my live streams for this are going to end up going behind private walls and things. This one's going to stay up because it's on my YouTube channel, and I don't delete things from my YouTube channel, even when they contain my dead name. And so I'm going to want to document the actual procedure for correctly doing an intramuscular injection on your thigh, because I think that's important information for people who need it. And it's less of a concern with DIY because that information is out there rather than dosages or levels. So, step 1, sanitize. Because I do not want to die from any external foreign bodies. Dry, dry, dry. A lot easier now that it's not so humid and hot in here. That's for sure. This room gets warm too, because I have my servers in here, I light a candle in here when I'm editing, I have my desktop, which puts out a fair amount of heat when it's rendering videos for my channel. It gets toasty in here, and it's not particularly, like, the airflow in this house makes no sense. Like, it doesn't flow correctly between, like, the bedrooms and the downstairs, and, like, the thermostat is in a dark hallway in the middle of the downstairs, so it has no idea what temperature our bedroom is, or this room, and it's like, it's a mess. There's a lot I don't like about this house that I didn't like about this house before I'd been stuck in it for 4 months. Alright, next step. Gonna get out our estrogen. Now, a lot of trans women end up going the oral or sublingual route for their estrogen. I prefer injections because I can get better levels. But it does have an up and down. So, hence why I am coming into my period. Yay! Right, so this here is my 18 gauge 1.5" needle. That's for pulling out of the vial. And then I have my fingers tangled in the thing. I have my 25 gauge 5/8 inch needle with a 1 milliliter syringe attached to it. I was actually approved to use the smaller needle for intramuscular injections. This is normally the one you'd use for subcutaneous because of all the problems I had with the 22 gauge inch needle where I kept hitting veins and stuff. And as we saw last week, apparently I can still do that sometimes with this smaller needle, but the chances are lower. This is about as thin of a gauge as you want to go because this stuff is thick. Like, yeah, it can get tricky. I wish that I could go with something that had lure lock, but instead I'm stuck with the push style lure tip thing, which ends up in interesting situations, as we've seen on this channel before, when during Vlogmas I had a needle get stuck inside me and the syringe pop off. So, fun times. So, there is our very large needle that we'll be using for drawing tonight. Next thing, you want to sanitize the top of your vial because you don't want to stab through something like dust and get it inside your body, because that seems like a bad idea. So we're going to clean that off. Nice. I also like to clean it off after I'm done with everything, because then it's just less to deal with next time. So that's the thing. You want to pull in an amount of air equal to or greater than the volume of whatever you're going to pull out of your vial, so that you can get back pressure and don't have to try to pull against a vacuum to get everything out of there. So I'm just going to go ahead and put an undisclosed amount of air in here so that I don't accidentally give away my dosage. Alright. Very smart idea to do this on a surface rather than like in midair, so you don't like slip and stab yourself. You want to like stab it through on a nice, stable, flat surface. And we flip up and we push the air in. There will still be air in here, so you're going to have to do a couple of cycles of this. Oh, hey Gabby, how are you? You're getting to the fun part. Last week I ended up bleeding everywhere. It was not fun. So once you get to where, like, past your dosage, you're going to push back up so you can push the air back into the vial. Okay, right in time for needles. Well, at least you deal with this on your own. Like, this isn't going to scare you. Oh, great. They're doing fireworks in my neighborhood in the middle of my goddamn stream. I don't understand where I live. I just don't. All right. There we go. Now, next thing you want to do is you want to pull, like, keep this vertical, first of all, and then you want to pull air in until you can see it, because if you're going to swap needles, you don't want to lose what was in the needle. Yeah, this is one of the safety pop tip things so that you can put it down without stabbing anything. Always a plus. If you get any, like, air bubbles up here, this is the time where you want to flick it a little gently because it will cascade out, but yeah. So we're going to put the smaller tip back on. Fireworks. It's still better than the neighbor's dog. That yapper just never stops. Alright, so keeping it vertical once again, we're going to push the air back up through the needle till we get a little bubble at the top. Hey, darling.
Hello.
Amanda likes to be here for when I hurt myself so that if I hurt myself, she can tell me it's going to be okay. She's an excellent liar. I'm terrified of dogs. Like, I need to be very clear about that. I am absolutely terrified of dogs. That's why the neighbor's dog bothers me more than anything else. Okay, this tripod is fighting me tonight. So, I have shorts on, to be clear. Alright, I should probably get this turned off so that I don't drive myself crazy. Alright, so, for those who are curious exactly what I'm dealing with from last week, I do, in fact, have a bruise from last week, so there's that. Bruise right there. Fun times. This is an ingrown hair that's been driving me crazy, and we're not going to talk about that anymore. Come on, camera. Work with me. Really? Jerk. Alright, so left leg tonight. The left leg is the fun leg because that's the one where all my veins show and, well, don't show, but for some reason persist everywhere throughout here, and it's like a minefield. Alright, next step. Alcohol swab on where I'm going to inject, which means I have to pick a site. So I can't see anything tonight. I'm going to try to use my phone's light. It's going to really mess up the lighting here. Alright, right there. Now the other thing that's a tip about this is that you want to do a full hand away from your knee and away from your hip. So that you're in like this area here. Yeah. You don't want to go in the wrong site. Next pro tip is to let that dry first, because if you don't, you'll be way more likely to bleed. What are you doing? Why are you giggling right now?
I literally can't say.
Okay.
I'm getting info about my new bosses. That's very amusing.
Okay. Well, we're going to stay out of that conversation
yeah,
then.
no, I can't. I literally can't say.
Alright, so you look good here, and we're going for it. This is the scary part, everybody. Okay, no pain. Always a good sign. You definitely want to go nice and slow with this. Otherwise, it won't absorb properly. Once you're done pushing, you wait 5 seconds. 2, 3, 4, 5. And there we go. Tiniest bit of blood, but that's well within tolerance. So I'm pretty satisfied with that. I will take it. There we go. Oh, too high. There's such a delay on here. It's very hard to do that. Okay, so next you want to do proper disposal. In my town, the correct way to do this is, I swear, this. It is neither here nor there. I don't make the policies, but in the needle goes. Ta-da! And eventually this will get taped up and labeled sharps and put in the garbage for disposal. Now, I am getting a little bit of seepage here, so I kind of want to share that info because I feel like a lot of people don't think that's normal, and it completely is. So let me try to look here and point this down. So yeah, you can see there's a tiny bit of like seepage happening. Let me get some light. Oh, okay, yeah, see, I'm leaking. This is one of the many reasons that I want to switch over to having Amanda help me stab me in the butt. That will not happen. Because I can use a longer needle and get it deeper and deal with that. I'm all good. Yeah. Love you.
Love you too.
There's my alert to take it. Yep, so I'm going to clean off my vial now. Yeah, it's very common to get some seepage with that. You started loving dogs and cute animals more after estrogen. I mean, I squeal a lot more than I used to over animals. Next thing you want to do is, like I said, let this, like, mellow out. And then once it's done, you're going to clean up with your wipe and just make sure you're all cleaned up. Nothing crazy. Yeah, all right. Love it. Yeah, so the thing with Amanda is takes pleasure in stabbing you. Yeah, I don't think Amanda's ever gonna really like stabbing me. She's very nice. It's annoying. But I do think that the best way for her to learn, she's a very tactile learner. She has to do it, and she has to be taught by someone who actually knows what they're doing, and I do, but she'd like to hear it from a professional. That's the best way for her to learn this. And we have COVID right now, so that's off the table, which really sucks. But, yep. We will deal with that later. Alright, so let's look at some preloaded questions. Unless anybody has any questions now, go ahead. Come on, let's go. It's Q&A. I'm going to take a drink while y'all are typing. I need to put a video up on this channel that isn't me bullshitting playing a video game or something. Oh, okay. So the question is, how do I feel about Rowling deleting her tweet praising Stephen King after he supported the trans community? I don't really care about Stephen King, but I am so thrilled that a popular author is telling another popular author, get the fuck out of here with your transphobic bullshit. Like, so good. And the fact that she, like, noticed she was called out to that degree and then felt the need to delete. I'm just like, King! Oh, like, I'm kind of hoping that at some point she more than deletes. I would really like to see her actively change her positions on everything and, like, support us. Like, the line I've previously drawn is that I'd like to see her risk something to help our community after the damage she's done, but I'm not holding my breath on that. And at this point, her deleting something is probably the closest thing to admitting, all right, maybe this is an unpopular opinion, and it's like, oh, she blocked him too. That's amazing. I don't know. Twitter, I don't even put my Twitter handle on most of my public social media because I just so rarely use it. Nothing I ever see on Twitter makes me happy. You know, 95% of the time I go on Twitter, I get mad. And I'm like, I don't want that, you know? And it feels like I don't have the space to actually make a compelling argument about things on there. And, like, yeah, because frankly, the issues that I talk about are far, far too nuanced to be compressed down to, I think it's 300 characters now. And, like, yeah, you're not going to be able to have that kind of a nuanced discussion. Plus, I just hate trying to read a thread on Twitter. It's so annoying. All right. Yeah, I'm blaming the platform for the people I follow, basically. But, like, I don't know. I need to engage on there more, I guess. I have my Instagrams all going to there, so that's automated. It's perfect. Most of the people I end up getting chats from are on Instagram, and I actually have this one person on Twitter right now who's talking to me, and I'm like, still trying to figure out if they're a chaser. Like, I really thought it would be like a scam or an obvious chaser, but it's like still going. I'm kind of surprised, to be honest. Oh, I've got a message that I should check. Nope. Not relevant. I have like 4 different places that people can be messaging me from right now, and I'm just like, trying to watch it all. Yeah, my Facebook in particular, I've fought really hard to make it a more positive place. I've had to unfriend like, I think a total of 3 people over Black Lives Matter issues because I'm like, I'm just not gonna argue with people about this. Like, if you don't agree with that, then you're kind of gone. Like, you're just not in my life. Sorry. It really sucks because, like, you want to believe your friends are good people, and, like, yeah, no, I cannot see you nodding your head. It's very one-directional, and on this side, it's dead silent. Like, I was debating putting on some, like, music or something in the background just to have it not be dead air, but there's a reason I edit music into my videos on my channel. Yeah, no, but in particular, Facebook, since it calls it friend rather than follower, I decided to treat it completely differently from all my other platforms because I'm like, if you are on my page, I consider you my friend. And my friends do not believe that Black lives do not matter or that police are doing nothing wrong and nothing needs to change and we're all just babies. Like, sorry, you're not my friend if you believe that. You know, and like, what to do about how to reform police is a political discussion, and there's going to be debate there, and that's fine. But whether or not there's something wrong is not up for debate at this point. Or at any point prior to that, to be clear, but, you know, now that we're actually all talking about it. Getting political tonight. We're going fighting. Right, LGBT issues. I think it's important to remember that Stonewall was a riot started by trans women of color, and there's a reason that we're all kind of in this together because we got each other quite a bit. Plus, it's worth mentioning that a black trans man was killed by a cop right around the same time as George Floyd and didn't get anywhere near the same kind of attention. You know, it's always fun when intersectionality gets you murdered and then misreported in the news. Right then. I'm very open to new questions. I've got some, like, 1 or 2 more that came in previous to this. And I've got about 23 minutes before I would like to make dinner for myself. As you can tell, I've entered the giggly stage after doing my shot, so... Oh yeah, no, this was a big deal, like, and, so the Transgender Day of Remembrance happens in November, like, I think it's the last day of November, and basically we just go through a list of all the trans people that were murdered in the past year, and it's always a very long list, and it's really depressing, but it's also really inspiring. Like, the event is meant to inspire. We never address people who commit suicide, who never come out, who are subjected to violence or discrimination. We just talk about the people who were murdered, and that takes up 3 hours. Like, kind of a problem. And going through that list every year, it's like 95% black people. And it's just completely fucked up. Like, I don't know what else to say about it. Like, it's just people of color getting murdered every year, and some of them are trans. And I'm like, what the hell, you know? Yeah. I think I'm gonna try to pivot a little bit. Let's see. So this was one of the pre-questions. It's asking about what my periods are like, which is fun timing because I'm PMSing right now, so... Oh, more personal question. Let's do that, because it's live. Have any of your past classmates reach out to you negatively? Negatively. That's the part that's flipping my answer on its head, because I was like, I had an answer 75% through that. question, and now I'm like, ooh. Negatively, no. I have heard that a few of them are talking amongst themselves about me as if I'm dead. Like, they're sort of mourning the person they thought I was. And that's extremely normal. I don't even consider that negative. Like, I went through a period of mourning with this. My partner went through a period of mourning. Like, I thought I was this person, and I spent 28 years of my life believing that, and I'm not. And it's pretty normal. Like, there's a reason it's called a dead name, you know? Like, but the irony for me is that, like, there's a sense of continuity in this, because I feel like the same person. I just feel more like myself now. And, like, I don't feel dead. I feel more alive than I ever have before. But there's, like, this element of loss there as well, because, like, the life that people thought I had and was going to continue having is not that life. So I've gotten I've gotten that secondhand from other classmates who are like, hey, just so you know, other people are talking about you. And I'm like, hey, they can talk to me too. I'm not unapproachable. I'm literally doing a live Q&A AMA. Like, I'm very approachable about this. I want to educate people, particularly because I went to a Catholic high school, and it was never a thing that we were ever taught about that trans people exist. Like, that's part of the problem for me. But no negative reactions. Not direct. No one's been quite there yet. I've had some really positive people, you're included in that, that have just been like, oh my god, I'm so happy for you. And, like, I've also had an interesting experience because, like, I used to sneak over to the girls' side of my gym class and get in trouble for it because I looked like a guy and it looked like I was trying to, like, have some sort of inappropriate intimacy there. And, like, people who I used to hang out with in that setting were like, oh my god, this makes complete sense, and I feel like an idiot for not realizing that. Like, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, so my oldest friend, who has known me since first grade, although now that I'm thinking about it, you've known me that long too, Gabby. But there was that weird gap where, anyway, I don't want to spill your tea on the internet. Oh, that sucks. This person is commenting that I've removed so many people from my high school years before I transitioned, so I'll never know if they accept me. I did the same thing. I did a purge. I was very scared, and I deleted a lot of people off my Facebook, and I have not re-added them, and they have not messaged me. And they're kind of in this nebulous space of, like, I don't really know what you're gonna say, and I'm scared of that, and I don't really need to fight people anymore, so okay. I know it is. I wasn't sure if you wanted my audience to know. I know who you are, girl. You have the same username everywhere. Not that I can relate. Anyway, yes, yeah, no, like, I did the same thing, and I've come to regret that in a lot of ways, because I had one of my friends, like, 2 weeks ago, reach out to me and be like, oh my god, I had no idea that you unfriended me, and girl, I'm non-binary, like, we should have been talking. Like, I had no idea. I just thought this person, like, didn't want to deal with me ever again, and, like, never gave me the time of day at the time, but it's, like, super fascinating the people that we surround ourselves with at that time, where we're, like, picking up on that vibe, because, like, a lot of my friends ended up queer. Like, the people I was closest to are at least strong allies. But anyway, going back to my oldest friend, yeah, no, it's not Facebook. My oldest friend, when I came out to her, I was like, hey, did you ever consider the possibility that I might be trans? And she was like, not really, but sure, why not, you know? And that kind of sucked a little bit, but she has since become full circle on it. She's like, nope, this makes sense, and the more you talk about what you were going through, and I remember stuff, like, it just all makes sense. And I'm like, that's exactly how I feel about it. Like, so much of my life makes so much more sense now that I don't know how I ever, like, I feel stupid looking back. So I'm like, yeah, apparently it's not super normal for people to try on a dress whenever they get the opportunity to. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's so fascinating to me which people did and did not suspect things about me because, like, most people aren't paying that much attention. Like, again, I went on a Latin trip with my class and swapped uniforms with somebody. Like, I walked around in a skirt in public, and nobody walked out of that situation thinking, like, I think Mia's a girl. You know, like, part of the reason that Amanda fell in love with me was because she thought I was a guy who did not care about gender norms, and it's like, I think I do. But, like, you are not stupid. Like, first of all, okay, you had the unique view, Gabby, of watching me go through my first puberty, and, like, I think we're all kind of miserable through that. Like, I really thought that the level of misery I was feeling about what was happening to my body was normal because I feel like most people hate puberty and try to block out the memory, and apparently it is not normal. Or at least not normal for cis people. This lighting is really making my skin look so blotchy. But yeah, no, like, I feel really dumb. Really dumb. Because, like, I thought there was something wrong with me. Like, I really thought there was something actually psychologically wrong with me. Because that's what we were told about everyone who was a crossdresser at the time, which is never felt right for me. Because I was like, I don't feel like a crossdresser, I just feel like myself in a dress. You know? And it's always framed in this, like, sexual context. And I'm like, I don't feel aroused by this at all. I just feel comfortable, which is a weird thing that most guys would not feel about being in a dress. And then I was like, oh. The big aha moment for me when I actually accepted myself as a woman was when I was talking things through with Amanda in detail. And I was like, she was like, we could try breast forms. We could do, you know, all kinds of cross-dressing stuff. We could do, like, whatever makes you feel comfortable. And I had the realization in that moment, and I often do this where I blurt things out without realizing that's what I always felt the entire time. And my therapist likes to use this to great advantage, and it's very annoying. Where I was like, no, I don't want to be able to take them off. Oh. Right. That's the interesting realization. That is the thing I did not know I felt. I'm still in that early stage, because they're new, where I wake up every morning and I hug my chest. I'm just like, I'm so happy you're here. Like, oh, and so often when I was going through my first puberty, and especially as a teenager, I would, like, do all this stuff that I thought was just so weird. And you find yourself doing things and not really understanding why you're doing them, but you feel better doing them and you don't know why that is either. Like, I would take a shirt and take a ponytail and, you know, make cleavage out of it and put it under my shirt and try to wake up in the morning without anyone else noticing, because my mother was... Yeah. And, like, try to wake up in the morning and feel right about my body. And I didn't understand that that's what it was, but I was, like, trying to do that. I would try to tuck, basically, overnight, and you can't do that, by the way. You will hurt yourself. And also I was very bad at it, so didn't even work physically. Just to wake up not having that bottom dysphoria, which now makes perfect sense, because I'm like, oh, I know what this is. I have a word for it. You know, it's that Fahrenheit. No, not Fahrenheit. Is it Fahrenheit? Or is it, I need to read the book. I haven't read this book. Whatever it is, if it's, I think it's Fahrenheit. Whatever, 451 or whatever. I haven't read it. I need to read it. It's on my list. But yeah, I didn't have a word for it. I thought there was something wrong with me. You know? And I feel like there's this idea, especially since I constantly talk about the fact that I knew when I was 5, where you just... It sounds like I'm saying, I always knew and had complete consciousness of this, and the only thing stopping me was my environment and my situation and all that. And that's just not true. Like, I had so many doubts. So many doubts at every stage of this process. I had a panic attack the first day I had my injection. Like, I was terrified. I had no idea how I would feel. I didn't know if this was right for me, and I know what people like me go through, and I was scared, and I think that's a correct reaction to have. So going back to the whole I knew when I was 5 thing, I got in trouble. Like, my parents yelled at me. They sat down and, like, lectured me because I was going around telling people, my neighbors, classmates, teachers, that I was a girl. I was correcting them kind of aggressively. Like, Gabby, you actually remember our kindergarten teachers. They were like, oh, well, you're a boy. You have to sit with the boys. I was like, I'm a girl. Like, that's what I was doing. And my parents sat down and explained to me, like, no, you're a boy. You have boy parts, you know. Oh, yeah, no. I hate my mother, too. And, like, I am fully cognizant of the fact that she is subscribed to this channel and just hasn't said anything. Like, she sees all my videos. I feel no qualms about calling my mother a, well, maybe not that word here, but yeah, my mother is a real piece of work. Anyway, yeah, so, and my dad was involved too. You know, like, as much as he was ever involved. We're not going to make this about my parents tonight. Yeah, no, so that's what they did. And, like, I spent the next 20 some odd years buying into that. I thought that I was crazy. I thought there was something wrong with me. I didn't know other people like me existed. Like, I had no way to know that this was normal for someone like me. Yeah, like, for me it's pretty clear, but a lot of people really don't experience that kind of dysphoria. They don't experience that kind of expression until much later in life. Like, I went to all girls sleepovers. Like, I had all the quintessential experiences that a lot of trans women feel they missed out on. I got to do those things because I was somewhat aware, I guess, at the time. I don't know. You might have repressed memories. It is, like, when I came out, so many things came flooding back to me, and, like, I had this, like, period of, like, a year where things would just pop into my head and be like, oh, that makes sense now. Oh, that makes sense now. Oh, God, how could I have not known? Like, you know. Well, this is extremely sweet, so I'm going to read this out. I always did feel comfortable hanging out with you and with our group of girls more than any other boy. It felt uncomfortable with boys and not you. Should have been an eye-opener. I don't necessarily agree. I think it's completely possible that you can not feel threatened by a guy and they're not necessarily a girl, but in my case, I was. Like, I remember being outside my senior prom, outside the girls' bathroom, and, like, dealing with the crying girls, and, like, them being like, why do you understand this? Why can't you make other boys understand this? What is wrong with boys? And, like, being like, I wish I knew. I don't understand boys either. That's sort of a thing that you get a lot of questions about as a trans woman, because they're like, you understand boys, right? And I'm like, no, I never used to be a boy. It doesn't make any sense to me. That's part of the problem. Going back to repressed memories, yeah, there were certainly things that I repressed. Like, I repressed that conversation I had when I was a 5-year-old because I guess my brain couldn't handle that in my active consciousness. You know, there's stuff like that. Stuff like, I completely blocked out the memory of going through my sister's dirty laundry just to wear something girly. And, like, honestly, she's probably not watching this, but if she is, I'm sorry. I know that sounds really creepy. But, like, the dirty laundry makes sense because my mother, being the crazy person that she was, wasn't going to notice if I went through the dirty laundry and it got slightly changed in its level of dishevelment. Like, there wasn't organization there, like if it had been folded or put in a closet. No one was going to notice. It was the safest option, you know? Plus, frankly, on a different psychological level, I didn't feel like I was dirtying it with my body, which is, again, hi, I have gender dysphoria. But yeah, no, it's so nice to know that, like, I wasn't imagining those things. Like, I really did get along better with girls. I really always did. And, like, that doesn't prove anything. But for me, it's super validating because it's like, well, yeah. You know? But as I was saying, like, Amanda partly fell in love with me because she thought of me as a guy who didn't care about gender norms. And yeah, I guess, like, the fact that I was willing to walk around pre any level of transition in a dress is kind of shocking. Most people who look like guys don't want to do that. I don't know. I still don't care about gender norms too much. I will scream all day that, like, a guy can wear a dress, you know? There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, it was, like, way more connected with, I'm just trying to have a moment that I feel like myself. Breaking the desk. Everything's fine. We're good. So, timing. I have one more question that came in before, and it was a question about my periods. So, I do not have a uterus, for better or worse, and therefore do not shed uterine lining like cis women do, or people who are assigned female at birth who have uteruses. And therefore, my periods do not include bleeding. They do, however, include everything else, including all the lovely emotional symptoms, all the fun digestive ones, and cramps, which, yes, you don't need a uterus to have cramps. That is a thing that happens because all of your smooth muscles are activated by the same hormones, and I've got them. So if you need me 4 days from now, I'll be sitting on the couch, curled up, dying. Yeah, no, and like, so the comment is, I had that phase 2 crazy beard and makeup on my face with, you know, women's jeans and shoes on the bottom. Like, yeah, you know, everybody, like, that's why I think it's super important to emphasize that men can wear dresses and do that sort of thing. Because, like, I really think that part of the problem is that I wasn't able to explore my gender expression in a safe setting. I was always so worried that I was going to get my ass kicked, because frankly I did get my ass kicked for this, and like, you know, it limited me. Like, if it had been safe for me to explore my gender identity, I would have spared myself 20 years of extra pain that I didn't need to deal with. Yeah, usually the relief comes when you start bleeding. See, that's the thing. Like, it is so hard for me to track my cycle because every period tracker app in the world only cares about your level of bleeding. So I have to lie to them to try to make everything sync up so that I get appropriate levels of warning. You know, like, my phone today went off about, like, you're gonna have distractions and, you know, feel really pissed off. And I'm like, fuck you. But, like, I have to lie to those apps. I have to, and it's pretty dysphoric for me because I have to be like, yeah, I'm bleeding today. Can't, but it's the only way I'm going to get an accurate prediction for next month, so just keep on lying. The first, like, 5 or 6 of them, I was in total and absolute denial that this was happening to me because I was like, no, I can't have a period if I don't have a uterus. That's impossible. Despite knowing that other trans women reported this, but I assumed they were all crazy and imagining it. But yeah, like, eventually Amanda's like, gee, I wonder why every 28 days you get really pissed off and have intestinal problems. And it's like, oh. The way I like to phrase this to other people is that, you know, especially AFABs, is we are more alike than we are not, you know? I find it pretty validating to have a period in a way that I'm not happy about because it sucks. It's sort of like having people stare at my chest in public. It's like, yay! Fuck you, but yay! It's sort of like, this is a thing that happens to other women, so good. But also, being a woman sucks. Like, I had no illusions about that. Like, I was, first of all, just on the social level, like, I'm completely aware that being a woman really, really sucks sometimes. But I am one. And that's what's right for me, even though it's wrong for the world, if that makes sense. Like, we should not be getting catcalled. We should not be getting sexually harassed all the time, but yeah, y'all should see my DMs. It's like I get all the same creepy guys and scammers that every other woman does, plus people asking about my genitals. Fun times. All right. So, regarding my parents, because we already brought them up, and since we're pretty sure they're going to watch this eventually, if they're not here now, the latest thing I've heard third hand... Oh, well, before I do that, it's time to take my progesterone. That is going to knock me out. Makes you so tired. Also, way more sexually interested. And it amplifies period symptoms. So, right then. In it goes. But hey, extra breast growth, so I'll take it. And that's when I developed my drinking problem. What was I saying? Yes, my parents. So the latest piece of information I've gotten from a third party is that my father is very concerned about all these hormones that I'm taking. As if I'm not being managed by this, like, literal world-class doctor who deals with people like me all day, every day. Like, come at me, parents! I agree. I completely agree. Like, I was so torn on whether to, like, reach out to them when I came out. Especially after I knew that they were aware, because my mother sent me a truly awful transphobic email with religious overtones about, like, how, I'm just going to quote the article, "No amount of mutilation will ever make me a girl." Thanks. Frankly, I was pretty impressed by the number of times and ways they managed to put the word mutilation in that article. Anyway, yes, I agree, first of all. No amount of hormones makes anyone a girl. I was one. I am one. It's medically documented, legally binding, and y'all can suck it. Like, I just don't even consider it a matter of debate. I don't even think my parents care to understand. Like, that's the thing. I probably shouldn't do this. Whatever. My therapist can work it out of me later. But, like, I was so tempted to reach out to them and be like, "Hey, I'm your daughter." No? Okay, cool. I'll just keep not talking to you for year 6. Like, I severed my connection with my parents for years prior to coming out because of all the abuse they subjected me to. Which, yes, some of my abuse was centered around my gender and sexuality, but it was not the only reason for that abuse, and therefore not a sufficient reason for me to re-engage contact with them. Especially given that I know my mother does not approve of what I'm doing, and apparently my father has concerns, which is... Thanks, Dad. Oh yeah, well, are we gonna start on your dad tonight, Danielle? The comment is, "My dad had similar views, thinking he could tell me how to live just because he's a dentist. Narcissistic baby is what he is." Yep. Completely agreed. As if being a dentist makes you an expert at endocrinology or psychology. Like, the thing I try to remember is that I have a diagnosis. I am diagnosed as female. Like, I have the medical opinion of several doctors and therapists who are all like, "Yep, nope, that's a girl." And somehow my parents think they know better. I try not to care about it. Like, I try not to care, but it really gets to me some days. Like, in particular, I had my birthday a few weeks ago, and I really wanted to, like, reach out and be like, "Hey, it's your daughter!" And send off, like, a photo of my updated, like, birth certificate and stuff. But, like, yeah, no, I'm just not going to deal with that. Like, it's literally not worth the fight. Because even if my parents accepted me as their daughter... Yeah, of course not. Well, he has no way to contact me directly. Like, I have him blocked on everything, so that's the biggest problem. But, honestly, I'm completely aware that my parents see everything on this channel. Like, there's too many weird things that have come back to me third party through this channel that I'm like, they definitely are subscribed to this channel. I'd really like to know who the hell outed me to them at some point so that I could be like, hey, thanks for that. Yeah, no. So, I don't know. Like, even if we got past the fact that I am their daughter, my legal name is Mia Claire, like, even if we got past all of those issues and they understood that completely and were totally on my side and my advocates and were supportive and, like, actively helping me with this process, there's still the prior 24 years of unrelated abuse. There's still the fact that they are completely racist. There is so many other reasons for me not to have these people in my life. You know? And then there's my sister, which is a whole separate issue. I still have hope for her. I have more hope for my father than for my mother, but that's a low bar. What? 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 DSM-3? What? I believe in the DSM, but not the most current version, because that's wrong. I just take so much issue with doctors and therapists who also feel that way. Like, there's a lot of endocrinologists who do not stay current on this stuff at all. And that's so disturbing to me as a scientist, because I'm like, hold on. So, you believe in science. You believe that that's a good thing that we should all do. But you believe that because people haven't changed, which isn't true, by the way, neither should your understanding of people based on new research. Why are you in this field? Like, yeah, no, as far as my parents, like, arguably sending me that article is abuse. You know? Like, ugh. Okay, so I'm gonna tip my hand a little bit. I normally don't like to talk about this sort of thing, but here it is. I did unblock my parents on my birthday. They left me a voicemail, which contained no name and no gendered terms whatsoever. And I think this is their way of, like, choosing to not fight with me about this. And it was just like, hey, we're your parents, happy birthday, we love you. Which on the surface sounds great. Like, that's a great thing to hear from one's parents. But there's, like, so much other shit to unpack in there. Like, really, you love me. What's my name? I'll wait. You know? And, like, oh, like, just call me my fucking name. You know? It's my legal name. I don't know how this is even a matter of debate. Oh my god. 40 years of, like, how? How does that happen? Yeah, no, I mean, that's just it. It's narcissist. I'm dealing with a narcissistic mother who is incapable of the emotions that I'm wanting from a parent. Like, the fact that I still care is the problem, you know? And, like, I keep saying that to my therapist, and she keeps being like, your feelings are not a problem, Mia. They're just, like, it's what you're doing to act on them that's the problem. And I'm like, you're annoying and your decor is terrible. And she goes off about me being deflective and whatever. Yeah, no. My parents have this idea of how they're supposed to love somebody that is incompatible with my definition of love. From their perspective, they do love me. And I can't convince them otherwise, and it's not worth my time and energy to do so, because even if we got over all the stuff that happened in the past, they're still terrible people going forward. You know, like, they're in their 60s. They're not going to change who they are any more than I'm capable of changing who I am, you know, and that's sort of the problem. We were fundamentally incompatible as human beings. I'm going to regret posting this in the morning. Yeah, no, exactly. Like, they're just not capable of the kind of emotion that I'm wanting from my parent. And that really sucks to accept. You know, like, as far as my coming out and my transition is concerned, they're never going to understand this. And I don't really expect any cis person to really understand this, but I would hope that I could get to the point where they would accept it, you know? that they could just be like, this is your legal name, this is your legal gender. I don't understand this, but you're happy and healthy and successful, and I don't really care about the rest. That's all I want. That's all I want. You know? And it's completely unattainable. And that really sucks. Really, really sucks. Tell them Danielle says hi. They are shitheads if they bother you. Wish they would try coming at me. I will defend you. Thank you. You are certainly not the first person in my life to make a threat. I have this one friend in particular who is like, just leave me alone with them in a room with a bat and don't worry about it. Be taken care of. I'm just like, oh, tempting. Yeah, no. I don't talk about them so much, and I'm working up to doing a video about my physical abuse, and like, on principle, I've not talked about my physical abuse that much on this channel because I really hate that people only take physical abuse seriously, and I really think that people need to understand that you can have CPTSD, like I do, from just emotional and psychological abuse. However, I was also physically abused, and I've got the scars to prove it. Not that I would show those on camera. Some of them are in some bad spots. Yes, I agree. Let's get a gang together and get a posse, roll up to my parents' house. I want to cut down my rose bushes. No, well, that's just it. Like, I feel no qualms talking about the abuse that they subjected me to, because if they wanted me to not talk about what they did to me, then they needed to try harder to kill me. There it is. We'll make shirts. But no, like, I cultivated roses at that house that belonged to my mother, but like, I took care of them pretty much exclusively for a couple of years, and like, every time I drive past there, I want to cut them down. I'm like, if I can't have these, no one can. Like, I want to cut them at the roots. It's like the pettiest little revenge, but I want it so bad. I've got a text from Amanda. She's probably like, hey. She's asking for snuggles soon and reminding me that I need to eat some dinner. Mia's defense mob. No, like, the thing is that, and I've worked on this a lot in therapy, especially recently, I have a tendency to demonize them. I have a tendency to, like, treat them as though they're worse than they actually are, as if somehow they're not bad enough. And I think the reality of the situation needs to be, like, no, they're not demons, they might be monsters, but, like, no, they're human beings that are deeply, deeply, deeply flawed, incompatible with me, and incapable of giving me the kind of relationship that I want with them, and that's enough of a reason for me to cut them out of my life. I don't need for them to be Adolf Hitler to be like, maybe I shouldn't have them in my life, you know? It reminds me of the quote, if you don't want somebody to write negatively about you, you should have treated them better. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Like, all of these things did happen, you know? Like, yeah, that's exactly it, you know? Like, and as far as writing my book is concerned, because I have been working on that again recently, I'm always torn on where the line is between things I should and should not include in the book, because so much of my abuse was not about my gender and sexuality, but it was also a factor, you know? Like, the fact that there was an obvious advantage to me being able to repress my feminine tendencies and my sexuality was kind of evidence to me that, like, I had to take it seriously. Like, it is undeniable that if I did not come home with nail polish on, I probably wouldn't have gotten my ass kicked. But I couldn't help it anyway. So why? You know, like, why was it that important to me? Why was it so important to be right about this, you know? It kind of forced me to take it seriously. And I'm like, where do I draw the line in this book? Because this book is about my transition specifically, and, like, about trans people and my experiences as a trans woman. Is it a memoir? Or is it just that? Like, how much of this is autobiographical versus, you know, abstract? Like, who's my audience? That's the next layer to this, because it's like, okay, am I writing this book for other trans people who really need to read it to know that, like, they're going to be okay? Or am I writing it for cis people to try to understand us? Or am I writing it for people who are actually transphobes who believe all kinds of really fucked up shit about us and need to see that we're just people, you know? Oh, I like that. I like the idea of cutting the roses as a book title about becoming a trans woman. Like, I feel like, you know, that's interesting. But no, the book title, working title right now is Transplaining: Answers to Questions You've Always Wanted to Ask Trans Women But Shouldn't. It's very wordy, and I imagine I'll have to change it by the time it gets published, but I will certainly be delivering a copy to my parents. Not by hand. That can be done by the post person. I also debate every time I finish off one of my estrogen vials, mailing it to them, just to, like, subtly remind them that no matter how much they disapprove, this is happening, and they are powerless to stop it. But, like, again, why am I so obsessed with this idea, you know? Are you suggesting combining the titles? Because that would be a lot. Yeah, no. And the other challenge I had with the book is, like, am I writing this about all trans women? Am I speaking for all of us? Am I the de facto representative now? Because I hate when that happens. Or am I writing about my own experiences, and should I be focused exclusively on my own experiences? You know? I wanted to interview my ex for that book, and she immediately blocked me as soon as I messaged her. But, like, shockingly, that relationship did not end well, and therefore she does not want to be included in this book. Yeah. I don't know. I reached out to a couple of people in my past that I felt would be useful for that. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, is it even conceivable that someone who's actually against trans people would read this as anything other than just ammunition to use against us? You know, I really don't think that's possible. I think it's really where I landed on that question is to target cis people who want to try to understand this better. That's it, you know? Yeah, well, combining the titles would be very wordy. But I love the idea of publishing, because I'm probably going to self-publish this, like a series on transplaining from other people's voices, other gender identities, and things like that. I keep using that term because it's the colloquially accepted one, but I really hate the term gender identity. It is my gender. That's it. There's no, like, it's not like, I identify as this, and that's why we get the attack helicopter jokes all the time. I'm like, no, I'm a woman. That's it. I get where people take the phrasing, you know, identify with that to, you know, like, I identify with that, meaning I relate to that. I get that's where it comes from, but, like, I hate how transphobes co-opt our phrases and turn them into something horrible. Yeah, well, there's that guy who I love, and I never watch enough of his stuff. That black guy who talks to KKK members. He is so damn inspiring to me because I can't do that. Like, I am not about to walk into a room full of people that hate me and try to make them not hate me. That is not my strong suit. I will just make jokes the entire time and try to make everyone laugh, and everything's fine if we're all laughing, right? Can I be a shapeshifter? Yeah. Number one requested power of all trans people, to be honest. Yeah. No. I can't do that. I can't do that. But, again, like, if someone's not going to be receptive to the message of that book, then I don't really think that should be my target audience. Like, I would love for, you know, people to be like, hey, I read this book by this trans woman. It's really great. And, like, you should read it too. And it'll help you understand them a little better. Maybe change your beliefs. And, like, that would be great. I would love that. But am I counting on it? No. Yeah, I do need to eat and snuggle. You are correct. Yes, and a hug would be so nice. Fuck COVID. I need hugs. Hello, gay from Greece. Broke out my body stocking tonight for Pride Month. I don't know what that means, but I'm glad you broke out of whatever was containing you. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed doing these streams for Pride Month. I'm so happy I did them. I'm done. I'm so done. I did them. I think this is number 4 or 5. I'm so exhausted. Yeah, no, I'm debating editing them together into like a compilation that would perhaps be entertaining. I'm sort of toying with that idea. I need to put out a transition update because I'm supposed to be doing those monthly and I'm not. Yeah, I think this was a really good way to end it. Bitching about my parents. It's fine. Let me just reveal all my psychology to everybody. It's fine. I should at least drink once out of this bottle just to bitch about aluminum water bottles. I hate them so much. That's not bad. Usually they end up tasting really metallic. Right then. I need to go before my face just turns completely purple. So, upcoming stuff for my channel. Since I haven't been on here in a month. Good night. I am doing a video about my transition updates because I do have them. I'm going to be doing possibly a compilation of these videos, maybe. I don't know, we'll see what my mood is like. I'm going to be talking about my physical abuse at some point. I'm going to be doing a video about what happens when I reply to all of my Instagram DMs for a month. That was a mistake. Yeah, some other stuff that I've got planned coming up. I still have, for my birthday last year, Amanda bought me, like a really intricate model of Tony Stark's heart from the original Iron Man, and I'm supposed to put that together at some point. I was supposed to film it, and then I didn't. I also got Animal Crossing, which I need to start, so that's going to be fun. I got SpongeBob coming in 3 days. Battle for Bikini Bottom, the rehydrated re-release for Switch. I'm really excited about that. So yeah, there's actually going to be content on this channel again. Woo! You'll notice I changed it from Interesting Things Weekly to Mia Claire 90 because I was not putting stuff up weekly. And frankly, it became more about me than about trying to be interesting, so it made sense. It was time to unify all my social medias. I need to shut up and eat dinner and go snuggle. Alright. Good night, everybody. Thank you all for coming by. If you have questions you would like for me to answer, I can drop them into transition update videos. Just DM them to me or comment them and I will answer them. I am extremely open. I really firmly believe that visibility is the only solution to ignorance. And that's all I've got to say. So, have a good night, everybody. Good night.